And welcome to another episode of the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast with your hosts, John Farquhar of Summit Risk Solutions and Chris Harris of Safety Dawg. Hi, everybody. Let me get John in here because we got a couple of things that we would like to address this week. Hey, glad to address, John, because we're going to address.
Ooh, good deal. We're going to address pet peeves, I wonder?
Yeah, let's go on a rant.
Oh, I love rants. I love rants. Happy rants, too.
Well, and I really like that shirt. Flash that shirt. Look at that.
Look at that. Ooh, just, it's like a little Vanna White thing. Ooh, yeah. Check it out.
Looking sexy, Johnny. Okay.
Yes, well, that's what we do.
All right, let me throw the ball.
Okay.
Per se, over to Mr. John Farquhar, Summit Risk Solutions. Here we go. Okay. Following too close, Johnny.
Oh, why? Why would you do that? Why? What is the reason for following too close?
What is the reason for not following too close?
Oh, obviously, to me, somebody's in a rush and it's like, get the hell out of my way. Come on, I'm trying to go. Brr, brr, brr. I want to intimidate the guy in front of me and, trying to get him to move over in the middle lane or get out of my way. Like, what's that old phrase? Lead, follow, or get the hell off onto the porch or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, why? What are we in such a big rush for?
Well, because we get paid by the mile. And not to go down that route again. What are you observing on the highways when you're out there?
I am seeing too much following too close. And I would hazard to say I see it in a particular lane even, and don't get us wrong. This is in all types of vehicles, but the sad part is it's the bigger vehicles we see the most, and it's these big monstrous trucks and trailers, multi-axles, multi-wheels going up and down the road. And I'm seeing we get into congested areas and I see guys that are just, tractor trailer, and they're all, be lucky if you could get a car between the two of them.
Yeah. And I'm witnessing the exact same thing whenever I'm on the highway, and I'm no saint when I'm out there on the highway. So in case anybody thinks that I do my 95 in my car on a 100K road, that's not what I'm saying.
You're going to get run over.
But I am saying that I agree with you that I see, and it doesn't matter which lane. And again, just this week, I saw a tractor trailer in the prohibited left lane again. WTF, what are you doing out there?
Yeah.
And he was out there, or she, I shouldn't assume it was a he, but that truck driver was in the left prohibited lane for a significant length of time. And of course, because they were governed, they weren't going very fast as everybody else wanted to go in the left lane. Now they're holding up traffic, giving us a bad rep. Anyways, what are the downsides, John? Tell me why I shouldn't be pushing these cars out of my way.
Well, that's called aggressive driving. Now all of a sudden you're just going to peeve off the guy in front of you, or better still, you're going to peeve off the people behind you. And all it does is help give trucking a bad name. Like years ago, we used to be the knights of the road. Every truck driver was held to a high standard because they were polite, and then, you had the odd one that kind of ticked you off here and there, but we're seeing a lot more of that now, unfortunately. And we're just we're not helping ourselves to clean up the image in the industry right now. There's a lot of good drivers out there that are getting a bad rap because of a handful of guys that just don't get it.
Well, and I wanted to throw in there that, first of all, let's emphasize that you said there are a lot of good drivers out there.
Yes, a lot of good ones.
And we're not talking to those ones.
No.
But those ones who aren't in those good, and I'll bet you if we were able to interview a driver and say, hey, we observed you following too close, their response would be, no, I wasn't.
Yeah,
I had lots of space.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
but we both know, and we've done episodes on the past about 6 seconds following distance and why you need it scientifically and all that kind of stuff. Not to rehash that. But when we're out there on the roads, we know by observation that if something happened in front, there's no way that truck is coming to a full and complete stop with hitting something. An example, John, and this happens, of course. I was working as an expert witness for a lawyer, so without giving too much detail, 2 trucks from the same company, both in the right, but these guys were in the right-hand lane, John. They're both in the right-hand lane in a snowstorm on the 401, and the truck driver said, the one following said, I had lots of space. He said, but I looked, and the guy I'm following hit his brakes. And all of a sudden, I couldn't stop in time. So I glanced off the side of that truck as I just made a small impact on the rear and went from the right lane, and without giving all of the stuff away, he went right into the hit the concrete median in the left, extreme left.
So went 2 more lanes over.
Well, 2.5, because he went through the shoulder and hit the concrete barrier. And yes, I know it was snowing, and so there was adverse driving conditions, but when I read the driver's statement, because this all goes to court now, the driver said, I had adequate following distance. He believed, and it was a he in this case, he believed in his heart that he had adequate following distance, and some jerk like me has to write that, no, if you can't come to a full and complete stop without hitting the vehicle that you're following, you did not have adequate following distance.
Right, exactly.
And it comes as a shock to the driver, unfortunately, because as I say, quite honestly, I believe every word that I read of his statement that he believed he had adequate following distance, but it was the road conditions.
Right,
aren't we supposed to drive according to conditions?
Yes, we have to adapt to the road conditions. So, hey, if the roads are a little messy and sloppy and slippery, even just rain will make it slipperier. We need to back off more. So what we thought might have been adequate conditions in super dry, nice clean pavement and asphalt is no longer adequate when it's now sloppy and soupy out there. So we need to back off even more.
Yeah, and that's true. But let's go back to the dry road situation. Do we truthfully have adequate following distance on dry roads? Can you bring that 80,000 pounds of rolling death to a full and complete stop without evasive maneuvers? For example, without going to the shoulder of the truck, with the truck.
So, well, and I think this is the problem where their perception per se of what adequate stopping distance or distance between the 2 vehicles is questionable, because you kind of have to start going backwards now and go, okay, where did you learn that this was adequate? Oh, well, I learned it from some truck driver in another truck stop, and we had a chat one day, and he told me, if you did this. Well, there's scientific studies out there, and there's lots of training and coaching opportunities to explain what is exactly the distance that you need, because there are numerous factors involved between perception, reaction, brake lag, and then the weight of the vehicle, the conditions of the asphalt, the road surface that you're on, because that'll all dictate different conditions again, because some asphalt is slipperier than others. Gravel roads are actually slipperier than asphalt. Because it's loose, right? So, so there's all kinds of things there that play into it. So you need to adjust your driving to the conditions that you're operating in. So I guess my question would be, regardless of what adequate distance is between 2 vehicles, why are you that close anyway? Why couldn't you even back off even further?
And I think, honestly, if you did back off even further, that you might just enjoy your job more.
Yes.
And I know those damn four-wheelers and some other truck drivers, if you do back off further, are going to take that nice space away. But I tell you, let them take that space
let them
away,
have it.
because you've got most drivers have a spouse and children and maybe their grandparents, or maybe you've got, there's people that love them. It doesn't matter how you work it. You've got to do your job. You've got to make your money, and you got to get home safe.
Everybody get home safe.
And every shift.
Yep, exactly.
And it's
so I'll give a little example. This one might be hard to believe for a lot of people, but I'm not a huge speeder by any means. But when I had my truck, so I as we know, I've talked about before, I had a fleet of trucks back in the day, and my last new truck was a 2002 Peterbilt, and I actually had my dad drive for me. He drove my 2000 or 99 Kenworth. Anyway, we set a challenge for ourselves between my dad and myself, and it was all about fuel mileage. Who could beat the other in fuel mileage? And the only way you were going to beat fuel mileage was to get your foot off the pedal. And it was really interesting because, we'd go to different locations or we'd meet up the same area, but it was all about, hey, I'm going here, I'm going to go here. Let's see who gets the best fuel mileage. And we found that a prime speed to operate at was 95, 96 kilometers per hour. Okay. And I drove that for a very long time because in my truck, I had an automatic transmission in that truck, and it was all spec'd out particular for what I did. And I averaged just a hair under 12 mile to the gallon Canadian with that truck. And I always did 95, 96 kilometers an hour. Now, I know I pissed people off because I was putting along and they'd have to go around me, but I'd let them go around me. I never had to follow anybody. I had all the distance north. The cars would go by, no problem. We never caused a wreck going that speed, but I got good fuel mileage, which was money in my pocket. My dad got fuel mileage. He was getting close to 10 mile a gallon with the Kenworth that he drove for me, and it was a hoot. And the silly part was we still got there at the same time. We didn't lose much time getting there. A couple of minutes maybe, but, you weren't hours behind, but, and what was really interesting was I was super relaxed. I wasn't clinging to the steering wheel doing 105 and slamming on the pedal to try and get it to its max back then we didn't have the regulators at that point. But nonetheless, you weren't slamming it to the floor to get it to do as much and as fast as it would go. There was no need for it. So, and it just made life easy and simple.
I'll tell you, there's a lot to be said for enjoying your job. Every day.
Yes.
Wouldn't that make you a better parent if you came home less stressed every day?
Yep, exactly. You'd probably have a better attitude when meeting that pissy customer or that shipper receiver because, hey, I'm in a better mood. I'm smiling. I'm feeling good. I got a good night's sleep. I'm not killing myself. And it's funny because we'll throw some regulations in here for a quick second. The speed limit on the highway says maximum 100 kilometers per hour. Doesn't mean you have to do 100 or 105. Just because your truck's governed to 105 doesn't mean you got to slam the pedal to the floor and get 105. You know what? Do 95. Do yourself a challenge and try that. Just like your hours of service does not say you have to max out at 13 hours in Canada or 11 hours in the US driving. You don't have to do that, right? It's there if you need it. And if you have to run that hard because you think you need to make that kind of money, then maybe this isn't the career for you. Because when you're slamming it to the wall day in and day out, you are an unsafe driver.
You certainly put yourself into a position that you might be an unsafe, because quite honestly, I remember when I was a younger man, coming home from Florida with at that time, my wife and my kids in the car. And I just finished 2 weeks of a glorious vacation. I was very well rested. And I know I wasn't driving a tractor trailer. I was driving a car, but I've got my kids in the car. Coming home from Florida that day, I drove 18 hours. And I was fully rested, and I would never put my children at risk. So I stopped when I started to get tired. But because I had just finished 2 weeks of vacation, I was rested. I couldn't do that every day. Never mind the stress of being a tractor trailer driver or any commercial driver. And of course, this was a long time ago when I was a younger man. I don't think the traffic was nearly as heavy as it is today. With all of the challenges and the new rules and the regulations and ELDs and dash cams and this all adds, I believe, to the driver's stress level.
It does. It does. Agreed.
And we've started finally in our industry talking about truck driver mental health. And I think a lot of these things have added to the stresses of truck drivers.
Yes.
You know, and so anyways.
Well, stress is going to add to the behavioral change that a driver is going to have, or a person for that matter, right? And it's going to be a situation where you're going to be, I'm in a rush. I got to get there. I got to make time up. I got to do this, you know, and that's one of the downfalls of our industry is I'm sitting in a dock. I'm not getting paid. I get paid by the mile, as we mentioned in the beginning. And now I got to go. Well, now I'm adding stress. I'm adding pressure to this. So I'm going to take and make some risky moves. I'm going to take some chances here because I need to make up some time. If we changed how we thought a little bit and we looked at how we pay our drivers differently, you know, we're kind of going down this road here where, you know, if we changed how we do that, we could eliminate a lot of these problems because it would in slow the driver down. There'd be no need to be in a rush because you would be counterintuitive to what you're doing. If I get paid by the hour, why the hell do I need to do 100 mile an hour now? No, I'm getting paid a decent wage.
So I can take a longer coffee break.
Sure, why not? You know, but I think the thing is the mentality with drivers is I think owners are concerned that the driver's going to take that longer lunch break, that longer coffee break. Well, in the trucking industry, guys want to go to work. They don't want to sit around. Yeah. So you're paying me $20 an hour, but I'm not wanting to sit around. I want to get moving. I got things to do because I eventually want to get to my destination, turn around, get loaded, and come back home to spend time with my family.
And not only that, you actually, with the telematics today, we know when the truck is stopped. So drivers know that if they abuse the system, they're going to be called up. So, all right, I think we beat the...
Oh, yeah. That horse is dead. It's barely blinking.
You know. So that was following distance. Let's switch to, and this, I was going up the 400 highway for those of our listeners in the States. That's one of our, what do you call it in the States? Interstate highways.
Yep.
So that's one of the interstate highways. And I was going up in my car, and I happened to be in the right-hand lane for a change. I was in the right-hand lane and almost get pushed out of my lane by a truck. What? It happened to be a straight truck. And so as I creep past the driver, I looked over, and what did I see? Johnny, what do you think I saw?
I'm betting he had something like this.
You know, and I'm thinking of course, both countries have the law that says commercial drivers can't be touching their cell phone.
Right.
You know, and God, it just...
Oh, yeah.
It drives me crazy. And let's go on this rant. Because I'm going to do this thing here. If you Google, and this is disgusting as far as I'm concerned, that us men, because I have to say it's probably majority of men, I just Googled here because I thought it was an how do you say that word? Anomaly. I thought it was highly unusual. Right. I heard of a truck driver getting convicted for vehicular homicide in New York State a number of years ago because they proved in court this driver was watching porn on his laptop.
Driving down the road.
Well, I thought I could easily find that story.
Yep.
Well, if you Google this, you can't easily find it because as we scroll through and look at all the different dates, you know, 2020, 2019, 2021, 2010, 2017, 2020. Like, my God, aren't some of us at least perverted pigs? Anyway, I just, so this is another form of distracted driving.
Oh, huge.
So
huge.
let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, if you want to watch the video, well, then park the damn truck, sit in a safe place, relax, watch your porn, watch your football game, cricket game, hockey game, whatever you want.
Well, let's go back. Let's not promote watching that.
No.
Junk.
But the thing is, if you want to watch that video, yeah. But if you want to catch that game, and I know there's a lot of people, that love football, soccer, that want to watch the game or whatever, then park the damn truck for that hour or whatever time and watch the game. In the safe place. Don't be trying to catch the game while you're trying to do your job and drive down the road. Next thing you're going to do, you're going to be falling too close.
Well, you're not doing your job. Well, I mean,
No.
You off camera were telling me about the story about the driver being pulled in for an inspection.
Yeah. I was talking to an MTO enforcement officer one day, and he was telling me how they waved the driver in, bring the lights in and whatnot, and they asked the driver to stop there at the window so they could talk to him. And the driver actually said to the officer, "Just a minute," and he had to reach over. And he had his phone on a stand on the dash in front of his steering wheel, and he had to pause the video that he was watching so he didn't miss a spot, so then he could have a chat with the officer about what the officer wanted. And the officer was just appalled and thinking, first off, you paused me to pause a video? Like, what are you doing? And needless to say, he wasn't holding the phone, so he thought he was totally legal, and which is not the case. So the officer charged him with careless driving.
And for our listeners and our viewers, I would refer back to, was it David Connolly? Who was our guest that we had on that talked about how they can go into your mobile phone and do the forensics?
Jason from Invista.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. They can do a forensic audit on your phone and find out everything and what time and what gigabytes and all that good stuff. So there's no hiding it.
And so if I remember, I will put a link to that episode right here, because that was a great episode. If for our listeners and reviewers, click that link and listen to him and tell you about how they can dig deep through your electronic device and find out exactly what the heck you were doing. So don't be doing that. Distracted driving just.
Well, and it's more than just the phone, as we're kind of alluding to, but also at the same time, a lot of drivers will think, but I've got my headset on, my Bluetooth, I'm good to go. No, you're not, because even though your phone is sitting over here and you're talking through it here and your hands are on the wheel, your mind is not in control of this vehicle that you're operating. You can't think of driving and the conversation you're having at the same time. It's proven. We cannot multitask.
Yes. And the other part of that too, of course, and I understand drivers wanting to stay connected with their friends and their family, and I think the cell phone is very important, and it's a great tool. However, when you start out with that initial phone call, and I'm thinking more to a spouse, you think you're just doing a check call and it's going to be very pleasant, but not every phone call with people that mean a lot to us goes as we planned. And if it gets into anything other than a hi dear, how are you, how's your day going, you are absolutely distracted. And
exactly.
If you get into the pending divorce or the problem with the children and all the other things that life is all about,
dispatch is pushing me to get where I need to go, and I'm pissed off with those guys. I'm looking for a new job, and your mind is not on the task of operating that commercial motor vehicle or any vehicle for that matter.
I tell you, it's some of the stuff that we expect our drivers to do is counterproductive.
It is.
To the way we dispatch them, to the way our customers, our shippers treat them, and to general well-being. You and I both believe that some changes are coming
Yep.
to our industry. Unfortunately, not fast enough,
No,
but I do believe some changes are coming,
Yeah.
positive changes
Yep.
to
Yep.
make things better.
Yep.
I just wish they would come quicker.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is too, us as individuals, the drivers, people listening to our show, the viewers and whatnot, they can make a change themselves. You don't have to wait for an industry to make a change. You can make a conscious decision to say, I'm going to be better at what I do. I'm going to stop this. And I want to give an example here of a customer I dealt with many years ago when I was at Zurich, and they were out of BC. And they were a tanker operation. They hauled fuel, gasoline, diesel, and whatnot. And interesting enough, this company thought they were the cat's meow. We're good. No. They got these awards from Esso and Shell and whatnot. Well, interesting enough, it was a family that owned it, and one of the family members, who was kind of the CEO, he's having to deal with a crash, and the crash was a rollover. It was a set of trains, fuel, and it happened in the city of Abbotsford. Okay, and there'll be people that'll know who I'm talking about if they're from Abbotsford. Anyway, this happened, I think, back in the early 2000s. Anyway, they had to evacuate half the city because the fuel got into the storm drains and the water system, and they were worried about fumes, they were worried about ignition, and they were worried about a big explosion. And what was interesting is his name is all over the trucks and trailers, right? So what really hit home for him was not the crash. It was the publicity that came from the crash, because his kids went to the same arena to play hockey as all the neighborhood kids. And when he's at there, all the parents are going, that's the guy that put me out of my home for a week. That's the guy that shut the city down. That's the guy that runs the company to do this and do that. And that's when he realized he was no longer the cat's meow. So they did a big investigation. Interesting enough, part of the cause of that crash was driver on his mobile phone, distracted. Okay, so they put in a policy: no more mobile phones. Dispatchers were banned from calling drivers. No more. They had a Qualcomm system. That's how old it was. Qualcomm system in the truck, and that's how you will reach the drivers. You will communicate through that only, and that means if the driver's moving, the system's locked, you won't reach the driver until he gets to his next destination. Then it'll ping, tell him he's got a message, he'll answer it through that. You cannot call him through his phone. And likewise, the drivers are not allowed to use their phone while in the vehicle. You cannot have that phone in your workplace. And he set up an inspection process that whenever you came into one of the terminals, okay, you would come into the dispatch office. Somebody in another office would see you come in. They would go out. They would inspect your vehicle. If your cell phone was in the truck and it was active, you were immediately terminated.
Wow.
That's how harsh he was. And it was all because of this crash, because he said, I do not want to have a company that is ashamed to work with the community and whatnot. So, and when I last saw him, which would have been 2012, I think it was, that policy was still in place and very, very strict. And every driver, or guy and girl that drove into a terminal, whichever terminal location, there was somebody there that was designated. You go out, check that driver's truck. You would check it for, not just for the phone, but you would check for cleanliness. Make sure that it was properly organized and whatnot. Things were clean and tidy. As well, if you saw the phone out, like sitting in a cup holder or in a seat pocket or something, you would check the phone. And if it was turned on, that was grounds for dismissal, and that was in their policy and procedures. So if the phone was turned off, then not a problem. Okay, cool. If there was no phone in the vehicle, right, then they would ask, did the driver have it on in his person, or was it stashed away somewhere? And they would ask to see it. And if it was turned on, then that was grounds for dismissal. So the drivers knew, you don't have the phone. There's no need to have this phone. And if you needed to talk to somebody due to an emergency, you pulled over a safe location and they encouraged you to get off the road, park the truck, and then make that phone call. So,
and I would add to that sentence, legally park.
Yes, legally park. Correct. Yes. Yeah. But he's only one company that I ever knew that was strong enough to make that decision. I find so many other companies are like, yeah, I'd love to do that, but I couldn't do that. Well, why can't you do that? Well, I need to communicate with my drivers. Why do you need to communicate with your drivers?
he must have had a company that drivers wanted to work for.
Lineup of drivers.
Right?
Lineup of drivers.
So he could do a policy like that. So, and this is a different episode, but you need to make your company that company where people are begging to work
and they'll
for
come.
you.
Oh, they'll come. Yep.
You know, so and part of it would be provide a safe working environment. Hey, Johnny,
exactly.
We're running out of time, buddy.
Again?
So we talked about,
oh my God.
I know. We talked about following too close and distracted driving. You want to wrap up distracted driving?
Don't do it. Don't drive distracted. Simple as that. I know it's hard. I understand how hard it is. You know, we've all had that problem, and the technology is so easy to get you wrapped up in it, you know. But even in my vehicle when I drive, my phone goes in my console and I put it down. Yes, I will have the odd conversation through my my Bluetooth in the vehicle. You know, we'll do the hands-free there, but I'm now cognizant, much more than I was years ago, of that conversation to go, okay, hang on, I'm in the middle of heavy traffic, I'll call you back later. Or if this is going to be a long conversation, why don't I wait till I get stopped? Or if it's important, hang on. Just pause while I get pulled off to the side of the road. Let me get off at this ramp here, get parked somewhere, and we can have this conversation. And I actually had that the other day on Wednesday, speaking with a broker client that I'm doing some work with, and he wanted to talk, and I said, cool, no problem. And I just happened to be coming up to an area. I pulled off into this business, and it was after 6 o'clock, and I just parked the car, and it was hot out, so I left it running, and we talked for 20 minutes. And it was perfect because I could concentrate on the conversation we needed to have and not where I was trying to go, and the conversation just wasn't going to happen right.
So you did two things. You serviced your client much better by being able to concentrate and actually hear and really participate in that conversation. And of course, you did it safely.
Yep, exactly. And so I got home 20 minutes later than I intended to, but my wife was like, yeah, no problem. Glad you're home safe. Thank you.
She got home safe. Yay. Yep, exactly. I think with that, Johnny, let's wrap her up. All right. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around. If you are getting value from this, and if you made it this far, you must be, click the like and leave us a comment. What topic would you like John or I to address, or John and I to address? Or do you have a guest speaker that you would like to hear from? Leave those notes in the comments, and I thank everybody for leaving a comment. That's it for this week. The Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast. John Farquhar, Chris Harris, we're out of here.